The awkward reason that your team may not want you to use systems. Hi, welcome to today's episode. My name is Tom Rowley, and this is an interesting topic. Why would your team not want to use systems? Well, one of the first reasons is that it is change. And in this time of great change, really it's been change after change after change, there is a significant risk of change fatigue. There's like, oh man, we can't deal with anything more. But one of the challenges you might come up against is that they're like, you know what, this system stuff, this process stuff, it's great, but it is slower. It's faster not to use the system. And this is true if the work that they do is very repetitive. So think McDonald's, think front of house McDonald's, think back of house McDonald's. These jobs are very repetitive. It's the same job over and over and over. You do not need to have the instructions right there. It's not like building a new Lego set where you've got to work out where the pieces go. It's flip the burger, press the money, press the buttons, take the money. It's really not that hard. But as you move into more advanced jobs where you're potentially paying people higher rates of pay, their work typically will become more complex. And so when they're saying, hey, we don't want to use the instructions because it is slower, I'd have you consider that they may be operating under false pretenses. And why is that? Well, if they make one mistake in that work, then it will take longer, likely, than the overhead that it takes to track the work. They're like, yep, it is quicker as long as you do everything right. And this is fine if you're at McDonald's, if you're just doing that repetitive job. But as soon as you move into any white collar job or any jobs where you're covering multiple roles, where you've got to swap between different tasks, all of these have an inherent risk of mistakes and errors, of skipping steps, of failing to remember key things. And this leads to mistakes. This leads to work needlessly done. As they go through, they might go for another half hour, for an hour, doing work that has errors in it, and then it gets found and you have to go back and do it again. Now, the overhead of tracking the work, keeping track of the processes that's actually going on, is relatively small compared to the cost of making mistakes. Now, realize also that the cost of making mistakes also has you suffer from customer complaints, from you constantly dealing with fires, keeps you late at night at business. This all is very painful. So could there be another reason? Well, let's talk about that awkward reason why your team may not want you to track their work. Why? Because it's going to give you optics. You're going to be able to see who's doing what. And this may bring up fear in them. So you need to speak to this and say, hey, some of you might have been underperforming. Some of you might be fearful that if I can see what work you're doing each day, that it might be less than perhaps I as the business owner or you as the business owner would be happy with. And you got to say, okay, great. If that's the case, let's bring that productivity up. You might have to have an amnesty and say, hey, we're going to implement this stuff. You might have some fears that you're underperforming. That's okay. Your performance will increase when you use the systems. Why? Because there'll be less errors. You'll be able to go through and work more consistently, come back from distractions and recover quickly, be able to cover your colleagues' work. If they're sick, we do not have to wait for them to return because the work is documented and you know where they're up to. So there's that fear of that they're underperforming and that they may lose their job. This must be addressed. Otherwise, you will have resistance. You'll have resistance about people saying, you know what, we don't want to do it because it's slower. This is bullshit. This is not the real reason. There is a reason underneath that they are fearful on. One, that they're underperforming, or two, that they're going to lose their jobs. So you must address this. What's in it for you? Well, basically, you get to do twice as much with your team for half as much time, less problems, more consistent work, way less variable results. The ability to have redundancy in your team. The advantages of running a business on systems are significant, but you must deal with the change factor that's coming in for your team when you implement this. If you want help with this in terms of how to implement systems, how to deal with team challenges around why they're resisting it and how to get them to do it, one of the easiest ways is just get them to track their work. What are they working on? It does not need to be the detailed systems following through on every detail. They just need to start tracking their work and begin to see the benefits of being able to come back and go, oh, that's where I was up to. That's where I was up to. That's what we're working on. They can actually have a much higher sense of happiness in their day when they're complete on the work. Being able to bring up all of the systems that they are operating on and knock them out. This takes out work in progress. This frees them up. This means that they're less stressed. They're going home on time. These are the advantages for your team that must be promoted. It's like, hang on, there is a lot here for you to benefit from as well, not just from the benefits that come to you as the business owner. If you want help, head over to systemio.dev. I hope you got some value out of today's episode. I certainly enjoyed making it for you. I look forward to seeing you on tomorrow's episode as we continue this journey into the power of systems to create results. See you then.